Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just watched The Mandalorian season 2, episode 3. Let's talk about it. So some of you guys might be wondering why on earth I've decided to review The Mandalorian, especially considering that we are now on episode 3, almost halfway through the season, and I haven't reviewed episodes 1 and 2 for you guys. Well, here's the thing. I have been debating as to whether or not I should do reviews of The Mandalorian on a weekly basis, simply because I am not a Star Wars connoisseur by any stretch of the imagination. Literally, I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to this franchise. Like, I'm just not an expert on this franchise in the way that I am, say, the MCU at least. Like, I have knowledge about the MCU, even the DCEU I have knowledge about. Star Wars has always escaped me. Star Wars has always been just this uncharted territory for me. So I decided to avoid it for the most part when it comes to reviewing The Mandalorian as a series. I just thought it'd be better for me to do a season review at the end of season 2 to let you guys know my thoughts on the season overall, as opposed to going to any real specifics episode by episode on a weekly basis in my reviews. But then came along episode 3. Then came along one of the best episodes of the whole show. Literally, not even just season 2, but of the whole show. This is easily in the top 5, perhaps even in the top 3. So we're going to be discussing my thoughts on episode 3 of season 2. There will definitely be spoilers during this discussion, but before we dive into the discussion, of course, just a friendly little reminder that if you're not already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on your notifications so that you can be told when I upload next. Without further ado, let's dive into this one because I have some thoughts. So like I already said, I am not a Star Wars connoisseur. I am not a Star Wars mega fan. I'm simply someone who enjoys some of the Star Wars films. I take them for what they are, which is these like space soap opera adventures, and I appreciate them on that level. Just know that I have watched the films. I haven't watched any of the animated series. I haven't read any comics. I haven't read any books or anything of the sort. Again, it's just not my franchise, so I don't know that many details. I'm just prefacing this video with this information just to let you know that I won't be able to name every single alien species or every single planet or every single droid. Like, this is not the information that you come to me for, okay? You're here for my commentary on this episode, not any specific details on Star Wars lore whatsoever. Also, like I said before, the reason why I wanted to dive into this episode this week is because I just thought this episode was so good. It was excellent, even by Mandalorian standards, because listen, Bryce Dallas Howard directed the hell out of this episode. So the episode starts with Mando making this rocky landing on the planet Trask, which we later learn is this like black market planet where a lot of dodgy dealings take place. But he makes this landing, considering the fact that the ship is in the condition that it is after episode 2. It's a miracle that he lands on the planet to begin with, because oh my goodness, the state of that ship is horrendous, but he manages to land on the planet despite the fact that the ship has no protectors for the planet's atmosphere. He manages to crash land right into the sea, where he sees another member of General Akbar's species kind of watching him in dismay and shock and awe, because wow, how did he even manage to survive that? And then when Mando lands with Baby Yoda, he then asks that spectator to take care of the ship and do any repairs that it may need, which yeah, it needs a lot of repairs. And it's on the shore that the frog lady finds her husband, and finally this side quest that has lasted like over an episode now has come to an end, because she's officially on the planet that she needed to be on in order to raise her offspring. So, you know, happily ever after for that couple. Well done to them. But of course, the whole purpose of this mission was for Mando to get information on where he can find others like him from the frog lady's husband, so that he can find out what to do with Baby Yoda. Like, it's all about trying to figure out what to do with Baby Yoda. I personally feel like at the end of all of this, he's just going to end up being like, you know what? I might just keep him. Because at this point, they're just so connected to one another. This father-son duo, I think it's absolutely adorable. So I can't even imagine him giving up Baby Yoda at this point. But anyways, the husband informs him that in order to get more information on where to find other Mandalorians, he needs to go to some pub that's nearby. He doesn't say it in so many words. Honestly, with the information that the husband gave him, I felt like it wasn't even worth. Like, it wasn't worth the hubbub of the entirety of episode 2 where they were facing these spider giant. What? Episode 2 was an arachnophobic nightmare, and all of that had to happen for the husband to just point towards the pub. Like, that didn't seem worth it to me in the slightest, which brings me to my major concern when it comes to the Mandalorian himself. Why is he so trusting of people? I genuinely don't understand. We'll talk about this more when we get into what happens when he meets the other Mandalorians, but I find him to be so trusting, and I'm starting to find it quite repetitive to see him encounter someone and then ask them what they know about where he needs to go, and they ask him to do something in exchange for that information, and half the time the information that they have is like useless, and the other half of the time it leads to a trap. It's always a trap. So my thing is, why is he doing so much for these random people when they're giving him crumbs in return? Because that's literally what they do, especially in the case of the husband. Like, he literally just says, you'll find out what you need to know in that pub. And in the end, it ends up being what? A trap. And then we see Mando and Baby Yoda make their way to that pub where we see them get seated, and the squid man asks him what he wants to eat. And side note, what does Mando eat? Because I can't remember seeing him eat anything. He must be starving. Like, literally, when was the last time he ate? Not on that icy spider planet, like not in the previous episode either. He must be starving, literally. But anyways, he's more concerned about Baby Yoda and feeding him, because it seems as though his hunger is insatiable, as we saw in the previous episode, and he has an inclination towards babies or unborn babies and eggs. Interesting diet there, Baby Yoda. He ends up with this like soup that ends up jumping back at him, which is pretty cute. Meanwhile, Mando offers up some coins, some currency in exchange for information, and once again that information turns out to be what? Useless, because it's a trap. Anyways, the squid man takes his offer and they end up on this ship, and as my brother pointed out, it was so weird seeing Mando on a regular ship, like a regular boat, because usually we see him on a spaceship. There was something about seeing him at sea that just felt more earthbound than some of the other places that he visits. Even when he's in the desert, I feel like, because we're not usually surrounded by desert environment, at least unless you live near a desert, so seeing the desert and Tatooine, like, that's more associated with Star Wars at this point, whereas seeing him on a regular old boat felt a bit off. It felt a bit weird, especially considering how shiny his armor was juxtaposed against the griminess and the filth of those who were working on that boat and just the boat itself. So the squid people are there and they're hanging out, and then they talk about this huge monster that they're trying to feed with these fish, and I found that very interesting. I was like, oh, how are you supposed to feed a huge monster with like the 5 fish that was in that net? Turns out they had other plans, because they had Mando and Baby Yoda leaning in to watch the feeding, only to chuck in Baby Yoda. Absolutely not. The second that happened, I was like, I don't know what's coming to you, but it's gonna be bad. Oh god, it's gonna be terrible. You just messed with his child. Absolutely not. Literally, you should have thrown him in there. And sure enough, Mando did end up getting his comeuppance on those squid men, but he wasn't alone, because just as he jumped after Baby Yoda, other Mandalorians appeared in this sick scene. I was so excited. I was so excited to see them working together. This team, at first you think there's 1, then there's 2, and then there's 3. This team of Mandalorians working together. This is something that we don't often see in this series, because we're usually focused on a singular Mandalorian. And he is so effective in what he does. I mean, he's efficient, he's fast, he's skilled. So already he's an impressive being on his own as a warrior. But when you have a trio of them working alongside each other in sync with their team dynamic. It was absolutely amazing. And also seeing the different armors that they were wearing, it was brilliant. I had such a fun time with their interactions as a trio. So they sweep in to save our Mandalorian in this sequence, and the moment that he is saved, he is pretty much just as shocked as we are, until of course they remove their helmets in order to introduce themselves. And then he's immediately alarmed and immediately on guard because he assumes that they just can't be Mandalorians because they're removing their helmets, and that's just not the way. As Bo-Katan explains to him, he seems to be a member of the Children of the Watch, which is a group of Mandalorians who are kind of like zealots, like they firmly believe in living out the ancient ways. So it's really interesting to see that difference in belief take place, because I feel like it's so organic and natural to a culture, especially if you're dealing with an entire planet. It makes 100% sense that in this planet that is populated by individuals, you would have different groups and different peoples believing different things. And so you have an example of the Mandalorian who is more orthodox in his beliefs of the code and of the way, and it shows through the fact that he, you know, refuses to remove his helmet, and he also very much sticks to his word. When he says that he's going to go out on a mission and complete a mission, he means it. He will do so by any means necessary. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier on about kind of how gullible he is. Like that kind of also plays into the fact that he seems to be a part of this cult, because he's very gullible. People are using him left, right and center to do their bidding, and he's getting scraps in return. He's getting crumbs in return, and it's so frustrating to see that time and time again. I'm hoping that eventually he'll be a little bit more selective about the tasks that he takes on, because I'm telling you, he's giving everyone a 2-for-1. Like he's giving everyone such a good deal on these little negotiations. Someone needs to teach him how to negotiate, because these other people are coming out so much happier with the results. Meanwhile, he's getting, like I said, crumbs in return. Literally, there's no return on his investment whatsoever. But anyways, the Mandalorian doesn't respond well to what he's hearing, so he ends up departing from the crew, only to find them very soon afterwards when he is approached by that Squid Man's brother, and he accuses him of killing his brother. So just as you think a fight is going to ensue between the two, you see the Mandalorians coming up again and helping him out, and they're teaming up together in this very short battle, and they make very quick work of the squid people. But I think it's just fun to see them working together, and that's when they kind of sit down and talk about, you know, what they're doing on that planet and what they're after, and whether or not they can come to another negotiation where the Mandalorian can find out more information about the Jedi, because he knows absolutely nothing about them. And again, it goes back to what I'm saying about his inability to negotiate with people, because why are you going to tell these strangers? I mean, I know that they're Mandalorian, but why are you going to tell these strangers that you know nothing about the Jedi? Don't you think that opens you up to manipulation, to deception? He needs to be a lot more careful about the information that he gives to these strangers that he's trying to get answers from. So the Mandalorian agrees to help them out to get these weapons so that they can take control back in Mandalore, and in exchange for that, he wants some answers. He wants a little bit more information on the Jedi and where he can find them, so that he can drop off Baby Yoda as he was tasked to do. And the rest of the episode pretty much takes place on that ship during that mission, and once again we get to see the team working together, this time around with the Mandalorian that we've come to know and love, and it is a sight to behold. First of all, the stormtroopers stay incompetent, stay useless. Like, is it not every day that we see stormtroopers missing, you know, lack of aim, lack of skill? Literally all they are just bodies, like plastic bodies, useless. Who is training these people? Who is anyway, it's just a joke at this point. Fine, whatever. We also see another Republic officer. What is it, a general? I recognize the actor. I'll put his name over here, but I recognize the actor from like Suits and from Bosch, which is that Amazon Prime show that I always see but I've never watched. I recognized him, and he's in this episode too, which is cool. But the Mandalorians are taking control of the ship. Like they mean business. They're not messing around. They're making quick work of those stupid stormtroopers, and then they eventually get to the cargo hold where they managed to get their hands on the weapons that they were after. Except, all plot twist, Bo-Katan isn't just after the weapons. She wants to take full control of the ship overall so that she can bring it over to Mandalore to help her out during this fight for that planet, for that whole planet. And in order to do so, she also needs a little extra thing, which she doesn't mention at this point in time, but afterwards we find out it's a dark saber, which I believe, from what I've gleaned, she needs that in order to take control of Mandalore, because whoever holds the dark saber takes control, like is the leader of the Mandalorians. Upon hearing that the Mandalorians actually want to take control of the entire ship, our Mandalorian isn't too thrilled, okay? He's not too happy because he feels like he's being ripped off here because that wasn't part of the deal. And 100% I agree, that wasn't part of the deal, and he is being ripped off because he's doing so much more work for the same price that he agreed upon earlier. Like, he should increase his price. He should demand that they use that ship in order to take him to wherever the Jedi are. Like, where are his negotiation skills? But ultimately, he still fights alongside them because Bo-Katan refuses to give him the information that he needs in order to find the Jedi, unless he fights alongside them to take control of the whole ship, because she knows how to negotiate. She knows how to negotiate and he doesn't, so he has no choice but to help out. And in the meantime, you have that Republic general calling in for some backup. And lo and behold, we have none other than Giancarlo Esposito making his first appearance as Moff Gideon in season 2, and he pretty plainly, pretty frankly tells the general that there's nothing that he can do at this point. The Mandalorians have too much control of the ship, so all that's left to do is kill off the pilots, okay, and go down with the ship as the captain general. I don't know what his position is, but that was peak. But sure enough, eventually the Mandalorians do make their way into that cabin, and before the general can manage to crash land that ship, they manage to take control of it and steer it in the right direction again, towards Mandalore, I guess, where they will end up using that ship to their advantage. And in the meantime, Bo-Katan is asking the questions. She's asking the questions that she needs to in order to find out where on earth this dark saber is. But unfortunately, the general decides to take a couple of pages from Hydra's handbook and manages to crunch his way into a suicide. So they're not able to get any additional information out of him, but Bo-Katan does know who has the dark saber and what she needs to do in order to get it so that she can become the leader of the Mandalore. But after she's gotten everything that she wanted, you then have that final interaction between Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian, where she finally reveals where he needs to go in order to get someone who can take care of Baby Yoda, and she name drops a character that is very popular in Star Wars lore. I believe she's in the Clone Wars. Her name escapes me. I'm so sorry, I'll have it over here. But she's a big deal. She's a very big deal. People are very much looking forward to this character. I believe she's going to be portrayed by Rosario Dawson. So super exciting. Okay, I'm just as excited as you. Maybe. I'm half as excited as you are. I was just delighted to see the story moving along, if I'm being honest. Like, after the first 2 episodes of this season, I was wondering where this was going to go, you know, what direction we were headed towards, because it seemed as though these 2 episodes felt very much like fillers, especially the second episode of the season. So to see that we're going back on track and we're starting to refocus towards the mission at hand and really focus on making, you know, huge strides towards that mission is encouraging, because a lot of these detours feel a little bit repetitive and we need to refocus on the main storyline to kind of connect this, the connective tissue between these episodes. Even though they are standalone episodes and they're fun as standalone episodes, we do need that connective tissue to make an appearance at some point so that we feel like we're heading towards something in this story. So in the end, we just have some more adorable little Baby Yoda scenes, and in the end there we do see him being babysat by the 2 frog people as they're looking after their newborn spawn a newborn tadpole, I guess, the tadpole alien. And surprisingly, Baby Yoda isn't reaching in to eat it, to try and eat it, but rather he's just kind of playing with it and having fun with the two new parents. And I think that was a really cute moment because, of course, we all expected him to try and eat the frog people's spawns, because that's what he was doing in the previous episode. Which, side note, I don't even blame Baby Yoda, because a lot of people were like, oh my god, Baby Yoda is so gross. But first of all, he's an alien. Like, let's not judge him by human standards. That makes no sense. And secondly, the mum was at fault here. The mum's whole purpose, her whole mission was to save her unborn children, her eggs, so that she could propagate her species, because apparently she's the last of her species, or at least the last of her bloodline. So the very least that she could do, was count the eggs that she had before and after. Why did she not notice that half of her eggs were missing? That made no sense to me in the slightest. I didn't even blame Baby Yoda, I blamed her. The whole time I was thinking, if this mission is so pressing, then why haven't you noticed that half your eggs are gone? Why haven't you noticed that the whole reason why you're risking your life and that of Mando and Baby Yoda is because of your kids, and the kids are vanishing before your very eyes? Why haven't you noticed that? But that's it from me. That's kind of my attempt at a sort of roundup for season 2, episode 3 of The Mandalorian. You guys can let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel to catch new videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.